My name is Diane, and at 56 years old, I thought I knew what it meant to be a mother. I raised my son alone after my husband died, worked two jobs, sacrificed everything to give him the best life possible. But this past Christmas, standing on his doorstep with my arms full of gifts, I learned that sometimes love isn't enough. When he looked me in the eye and said I had the wrong house, I knew something had shattered that could never be put back together. Before I tell you what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. If you've ever felt unappreciated by someone you've sacrificed everything for, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe, because this story is about standing up for yourself when it matters most. Now, let me take you back to that Christmas morning when everything fell apart. I've been a widow for 26 years. My husband Andrew died in a car accident when our son Kyle was only 6 years old. One moment we were a complete family, and the next I was alone with a first grader who kept asking when Daddy would come home. I'll never forget having to explain that Daddy wasn't coming back. Kyle cried for weeks. So did I, but only when he couldn't see me. After Andrew's death, I had to become both mother and father. We lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in a modest two-bedroom house that suddenly felt too big and too empty. The life insurance helped, but it wasn't enough. I took a full-time job as a receptionist at the local hospital, answering phones and scheduling appointments from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then I'd pick up Kyle from school, help him with homework, make dinner, and at 6 o'clock I'd leave him with our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, and head to my second job at a clothing store in the mall. I'd fold sweaters and ring up customers until 10 at night, then drive home exhausted, kiss my sleeping son on the forehead, and fall into bed myself. This was my life for years. No vacations, no nights out with friends, no dating, just work and Kyle. But I never resented it. He was my whole world. I made sure he had everything he needed. Good schools, even though it meant we lived in a more expensive neighborhood than I could really afford. Soccer cleats and piano lessons and summer camp. I wanted him to have the childhood he deserved even without his father. Kyle was a good kid. Smart, polite, always made me proud. He'd bring home straight A's, and I'd put them on the refrigerator like trophies. He'd hug me and say, "I love you, Mom. Thank you for everything." Those moments made all the sacrifice worthwhile. When it came time for college, Kyle got accepted to Northwestern University in Chicago, about 400 miles from home. It was a great school, one of the best, but expensive. Very expensive. I didn't have savings. I'd spent everything on raising him. So I took out loans. A lot of loans. Kyle felt guilty about it, but I told him not to worry. "This is an investment in your future," I said. "You're going to do amazing things." He graduated with honors, got a job as a financial analyst at a consulting firm in Chicago, and I was so proud I thought my heart would burst. My baby, the college graduate with the good job. All those years of struggle had paid off. 3 years ago, Kyle married his college girlfriend, Stephanie. She came from money, I could tell right away. The way she dressed, the way she talked about her family's vacation home in Aspen. At the wedding, her parents barely spoke to me. I wore the nicest dress I owned, bought on sale from the store where I used to work, and I still felt like I didn't belong. But Kyle was happy, and that's what mattered. They had a baby girl 2 years ago. Emma, my granddaughter. I drove to Chicago to meet her when she was born, brought gifts and flowers. Stephanie was polite but distant. She thanked me for coming, but seemed eager for me to leave. Kyle walked me to my car and said, "Stephanie's just tired, Mom. You understand." I did understand. New mothers are exhausted. But after that, something changed. Kyle used to call me every week. Then it became every 2 weeks. Then once a month, if that. When I'd call him, he often wouldn't answer. He'd text back later, "Busy with work, sorry." I tried not to take it personally. He was building his career, raising a family. Young people are busy. I visited Chicago 3 times in the next 2 years. Each time I'd stay for maybe 3 or 4 hours. Stephanie always had somewhere to be. A yoga class, a lunch with friends, errands to run. Kyle would say he had a work deadline. I'd sit in their beautiful house, hold Emma for a little while, and then they'd hint that they had things to do. I'd drive the 400 miles back to Minneapolis feeling lonelier than when I'd left. What I didn't know then was that Stephanie didn't like me. She thought I was too involved, too needy. She told Kyle I asked too many questions, called too often, expected too much. And Kyle, who used to defend me about everything, started to listen to her. Even though Kyle made good money, 6 figures, according to what he'd told me, I still wanted to help. I set up an automatic bank transfer to send him $1,000 every month. I knew they'd bought a house and had expenses with the baby. When I suggested it, Kyle protested at first. "Mom, you don't have to do that," but I insisted. "You're my son. Let me help." So every month, $1,000 left my account and went into his. I was still working full-time at the hospital. I'd moved up from receptionist to administrative coordinator, which paid better, but it wasn't a fortune. That $1,000 a month meant I couldn't take vacations, couldn't buy new furniture when mine wore out, couldn't save for retirement the way I should have. But it didn't matter. I wanted to help my son. What I didn't realize was that Kyle and Stephanie had started to see that money as something they were entitled to, not something I was choosing to give out of love. In early November, I called Kyle to talk about Christmas plans. I was excited. Emma would be old enough to really enjoy the holiday this year. I imagined us around a Christmas tree opening presents, making memories. "Hey, Mom," Kyle answered. He sounded distracted, like he was doing something else while talking to me. "Hi, honey. I was thinking about Christmas. What are your plans?" There was a pause. "We're staying home this year, Mom. It's Emma's first real Christmas, you know. We want to make it special." "That sounds wonderful," I said. "Can I come visit? Just for Christmas Day, I could drive down in the morning, spend the day with you all, and drive back that evening if you need space." Another pause, longer this time. "Let me talk to Stephanie about it." That should have been my first clue. When had my son needed permission for his mother to visit? 3 days later, Kyle sent me a text message. Not even a phone call, a text. "Actually, Mom, maybe it's better if you don't come this year. We want a quiet family Christmas." I stared at that message for a long time. A quiet family Christmas. Wasn't I family? I called him back. "Kyle, I understand you want it to be special, but I'm your mother. I'm Emma's grandmother. I'm family too." "I know, Mom." He sighed, sounding annoyed. "But Stephanie's parents are also coming. The house will be crowded. It'll be too much." Something about the way he said it made my stomach hurt, but I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law, the burden. "Okay, honey, I understand. We'll celebrate another time." "Thanks for understanding," he said quickly. "I've got to go. Love you." He hung up before I could say I loved him too. I sat there in my quiet house and cried, but then I dried my tears and told myself to stop being silly. He was right. The house would be crowded. They wanted time with Emma. It was fine. I decided to send gifts instead. I went to the toy store and spent almost $300 on presents for Emma. A beautiful doll with a whole wardrobe of clothes, educational toys, books. I wrapped everything carefully and sent it through the mail 2 weeks before Christmas so it would arrive in time. Kyle texted when the package arrived. "Got the gifts. Thanks, Mom." That was it. No photo of Emma with the toys, no phone call to say thank you properly. Just those 5 words. My best friend Carol came over for coffee a couple of weeks before Christmas. I told her about the situation. She was furious on my behalf. "Diane, this is ridiculous. You're his mother. You should be there for Christmas." He said it would be crowded. I said, defending him even though it hurt. "So, what you drive down for the day and drive back? You're not asking to move in." Carol stirred her coffee vigorously like she was angry at the cup. "You know what I think you should do? Show up anyway. Surprise them. Bring more gifts. They can't turn you away when you're standing on the doorstep." I hesitated. "I don't know. Kyle specifically said not to come." "He's your son, not your boss. You have every right to see your grandchild on Christmas." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Stop letting them push you aside." I thought about it for days. Carol was right. I'd given Kyle everything. Surely I deserved to spend Christmas with my family, and it would be a nice surprise. Kyle would see me and realize how much he'd missed me. We'd hug and laugh, and everything would be fine again. So I decided to do it. I'd drive to Chicago on Christmas morning. I baked Kyle's favorite cookies chocolate chip with walnuts, the recipe I'd been making since he was little. I bought an expensive bottle of wine for Stephanie. I wrapped everything beautifully. Christmas morning, my alarm went off at 5 a.m. It was still dark outside. I got dressed, loaded my car with gifts, and started the long drive to Chicago. The roads were quiet. A light snow was falling, making everything look peaceful and magical. I turned on the radio and sang along to Christmas carols. I felt happy, excited even. In a few hours, I'd see my son and my granddaughter. I'd give them their gifts and see their surprised, happy faces. The drive took 7 hours because of the snow. I stopped once for gas and coffee, then kept going. By the time I reached Chicago, it was noon. The city looked beautiful with all the Christmas decorations. I stopped at a flower shop and bought a bouquet of red and white roses. When I pulled up to Kyle's house in the suburbs, I saw both his car and Stephanie's SUV in the driveway. Lights twinkled in the windows. I could see a Christmas tree through the front window. My heart was beating fast with anticipation. I gathered the gifts, the cookies, the wine, the flowers. My arms were so full I could barely see over the top of everything. I walked carefully up the shoveled path to the front door and rang the doorbell. I waited, smiling, ready for Kyle's surprised face when he opened the door. The door opened. Kyle stood there in jeans and a sweater. For a second, he just stared at me. His eyes went wide, his mouth opened slightly. But he didn't smile. He didn't say, "Mom, what a wonderful surprise." He didn't reach out to help me with the gifts. Instead, he looked over his shoulder quickly, then back at me. "I'm sorry," he said loudly, clearly. "I think you have the wrong house." I blinked. "What? You must have the wrong address, ma'am. I don't know you." I stood there holding all those gifts, snowflakes landing on my shoulders, and felt like the ground was tilting under my feet. "Kyle, it's me, it's Mom." He shook his head, not meeting my eyes. "I'm sorry you're mistaken. This isn't your house." I saw movement behind him. Stephanie appeared, holding Emma on her hip. She looked at me over Kyle's shoulder, and her expression was cold, annoyed. Kyle started closing the door. "You need to leave. We're having a private family gathering." "Kyle, please," I started to say. "Ma'am, you need to go." His voice was hard, now unfamiliar. "You're at the wrong house." The door closed. Not slammed, but firmly shut. I heard the lock click. I stood there on the porch, my arms full of gifts I'd bought and wrapped with love, staring at that closed door. Inside, I could hear voices. Someone laughed. Christmas music was playing. Snow kept falling. Cars drove past on the street, people heading to their own family gatherings. Somewhere nearby, children were shouting with excitement over new toys. I couldn't move. I couldn't process what had just happened. My son had looked me in the eye and pretended not to know me. On Christmas Day. Tears started running down my face. My arms began to shake. I looked down at the gifts I was holding. The cookies I'd baked. The flowers. All of it suddenly felt so heavy. I turned and walked back to my car. Halfway there, I dropped the bag of cookies on the front steps. I didn't pick it up. I just kept walking. I put everything else in the trunk, got in the driver's seat, and started the engine. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove away from that house, not sure where I was going, just needing to get away from there. I ended up in a shopping center parking lot about 2 miles away. It was nearly empty. Most stores were closed for Christmas. I pulled into a space far from any other cars and sat there crying so hard I couldn't breathe properly. My phone rang. Kyle's name appeared on the screen. My first instinct was not to answer, but some part of me hoped he was calling to apologize, to say there had been some terrible misunderstanding, to beg me to come back. I answered. "Hello." "Mom." His voice was different now, calmer, almost casual. "Listen, just relax, okay? We just wanted some peace. It's nothing personal." I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. My voice came out small and broken. "I understand, Kyle. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced." "Yeah, well, next time ask first, all right. Listen, I've got to go. Stephanie's family is here, and we're about to eat." Stephanie's family. The family he'd said there wasn't room for me to join. "Okay, honey," I whispered. "I love you." "Yeah. Bye, Mom." I heard noise in the background. Voices, laughter. Then Kyle's voice, but not talking to me. He hadn't hung up. I was about to end the call when I heard Stephanie's voice, clear as day. "Is she gone?" "Yeah. I told her off. She actually thought she could just show up." Stephanie laughed. It was a mean sound, sharp and mocking. "Your mom is so desperate, like we don't have enough people here already." "I know," Kyle said. I could hear the smile in his voice. "She thinks that money she sends every month buys her a seat at the table." "Exactly. Stephanie's voice got louder, like she was moving closer to the phone. Like, we even need that money. You make 6 figures for crying out loud. It's convenient, though. Extra 1,000 a month, we can put it towards the vacation fund. I'm thinking Hawaii next winter. They both laughed. Next time, just tell her to stay in Minneapolis where she belongs, Stephanie said. Will do. Now come on, your dad wants to make a toast. The call ended. I sat in that parking lot holding my phone, and everything inside me turned to ice. The tears stopped. Something else took their place. Something cold and clear and final, all those years, all that sacrifice, the 2 jobs, the loans for his education, the $1,000 every single month when I could barely afford it. And this was what I meant to him, a convenient source of extra vacation money, an annoyance to be dismissed. I opened my banking app with shaking hands. I found the automatic transfer, $1,000 sent on the first of every month to Kyle Thompson. I hovered my finger over the cancel button. Then I pressed it. A message popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring transfer? Yes, I was sure. Transfer canceled successfully. I stared at that message. Then I put my phone down, started my car, and began the long drive back to Minneapolis. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't cry anymore. I just drove in silence, watching the snow fall on the highway, feeling something inside me that I'd never felt before toward my son. I didn't know what to call it. Anger, yes. Hurt, definitely. But also something else. Something like freedom. I got home at 9 o'clock that night. The house was dark and cold. I turned on the lights, made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink, and sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind going over everything. Not just today, but years and years of memories. I remembered Kyle at 8 years old crying because he missed his father. I'd held him and promised I'd take care of him. And I had. When other kids were getting dropped off at school by both parents, I was there alone. When he needed help with science projects, I learned about volcanoes and solar systems so I could assist him. When he wanted to try basketball, I worked extra hours to pay for the league fees and drove him to every practice, every game. I remembered his high school graduation. I sat in the audience bursting with pride watching him give a speech as valedictorian. Afterward, he hugged me and said, I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. You're the best. I remembered moving him into his college dorm. The apartment was tiny, but it was all we could afford, even with the loans. I'd brought him towels and dishes and a little desk lamp. He'd seemed embarrassed that his things weren't as nice as what the other kids had, but I told him it didn't matter. You're here because you earned it, I said. Be proud. I remembered his wedding, walking him down the aisle because there was no father to do it, giving a toast at the reception where I talked about the man he'd become. Stephanie's mother had given a toast too, all about their family's history and traditions. No mention of me at all. When had it started to change? When had I gone from being his mother to being an obligation? Was it when he got the job? When he married Stephanie? When Emma was born? Or had it always been there underneath and I'd just refused to see it? My phone sat on the nightstand, silent, no calls, no texts. Part of me had expected Kyle to call back to apologize for what he'd said, but of course he didn't. He didn't even know I'd heard him. Around 3 a.m, I got up and went to the kitchen. I made coffee, even though I knew it would keep me awake. I didn't care. I wasn't sleeping anyway. I thought about the money. $1,000 a month for how long I did the math. Kyle had been working for 8 years. I'd been sending money for about 6 of those years. $72,000. That was how much I'd sent him. $72,000 that could have gone into my retirement account. That could have paid for a real vacation. That could have fixed the leaking roof I'd been ignoring because I couldn't afford a contractor. $72,000, and to him, it was just convenient vacation money. I thought about Stephanie calling me desperate. Was I desperate? I'd certainly made myself available whenever they needed me, sent gifts for every birthday and holiday, called regularly, even when the calls weren't returned. Driven 800 miles round trip just to spend a few hours with them. Maybe I had been desperate. Desperate to stay connected to the only family I had left. Desperate to be a grandmother to Emma. Desperate to still matter to my son. But I wasn't desperate anymore. The sun came up on the day after Christmas. Gray light filled the kitchen. My phone started ringing. I looked at the screen. Kyle. I didn't answer. It rang again an hour later. I ignored it. A voicemail notification appeared. I listened to it. Mom, hey, it's Kyle. I'm getting a notification that the automatic transfer was canceled. There must be some kind of mistake. Can you check with your bank and fix it? Call me back. Not, I'm sorry for how I treated you. Not, I'm sorry you had to drive all that way for nothing. Just concern about the money. I deleted the voicemail. The next day, December 27th, Kyle sent me an email. A long one this time. Mom, I'm sorry if I was rude on Christmas. Things were stressful with Stephanie's family there, you know how it gets. But I noticed the transfer got canceled, and I wanted to make sure everything's okay with your account. We really count on that money for our monthly budget. The mortgage, Emma's daycare, everything's gotten so expensive. Please reinstate it as soon as possible. I read it 3 times. Not once did he actually apologize for telling me I had the wrong house. Not once did he acknowledge how cruel that had been. The entire email was about the money. I didn't respond. December 28th. Stephanie texted me. We almost never communicated directly. The message read, Diane, I don't know what's going on between you and Kyle, but he's really upset about the money situation. Can you please just talk to him and sort this out? Her concern wasn't for me or my feelings. It was about the money. I blocked her number. December 29th. Kyle left another voicemail. This one was different. Angry. Mom, this is ridiculous. You can't just cut us off like this. We have bills to pay. Emma needs things. We planned our budget around that money. Don't be selfish about this. Whatever you're upset about, we can talk about it, but you need to turn the transfer back on first. Selfish. He called me selfish. The woman who had worked herself to exhaustion for 26 years raising him. The woman who went into debt so he could go to a good college. The woman who sent him $1,000 a month even when it meant she ate ramen for dinner 3 nights a week. I was selfish. I saved that voicemail. Didn't know why at the time, just wanted to keep it. Carol came over that afternoon. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. You did it, didn't you? You canceled the money. I nodded against her shoulder. Good, she said fiercely. That boy needs to learn he can't treat you like garbage. We sat at my kitchen table and I told her everything. The phone call I'd overheard. The things they'd said, the voicemails Kyle had been leaving. Carol was livid. Her face turned red and she actually stood up and paced around my kitchen. He called you selfish after everything you've done, Diane. You've been too good to that kid. You've spoiled him rotten and now he thinks he's entitled to whatever you have. He's my son, I said quietly, and you're his mother. That's supposed to mean something. Respect, gratitude, love. Carol sat back down. You did the right thing. Don't you dare turn that money back on. I won't, I said, and I meant it. I called 2 other friends that week. Both had the same reaction. Shock at how Kyle had treated me. Anger on my behalf. Support for my decision. One friend, a woman named Barbara, who'd known me since Kyle was little, said something that stuck with me. Diane, you're not an ATM machine. You're a human being who deserves to be treated with dignity. If Kyle can't see that, then he needs to be taught. On New Year's Eve, I was home alone. I'd been invited to Carol's party, but didn't feel like celebrating. I sat on my couch with a cup of tea and thought about the year that had passed and the year coming. At 11:59, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Kyle was standing on my porch. I opened the door. We stood there looking at each other. He was wearing a heavy coat, his cheeks red from the cold. He looked tired, stressed. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He walked into my living room, the room where he'd grown up, where we'd watched movies together and done homework at the coffee table and opened Christmas presents. He didn't take off his coat, just stood there, awkwardly. We need to talk, he said. I sat down on the couch, didn't offer him a seat, didn't offer him anything. Mom, what's going on? Why did you cancel the transfer? I looked at him, really looked at him. He was 32 years old, a grown man, successful, educated, well-paid, and he was here demanding to know why I'd stopped giving him money. Because I'm tired of being treated like an ATM, I said quietly. He blinked. What are you talking about, say? Christmas Day, you told me I had the wrong house. You closed the door in my face. I explained that, he said, his voice rising slightly. Stephanie's family was there. It was crowded. You should have asked before coming. I drove 400 miles to see you. I brought gifts. I baked your favorite cookies, and you looked at me like I was a stranger and told me to leave. It was a stressful situation, he said defensively. Then you called me. I stood up now, too. Do you remember that call, Kyle? Yeah, and I apologized. You didn't hang up. I walked closer to him. I heard everything. I heard Stephanie call me desperate. I heard you say I think the money buys me a seat at the table. I heard you both laugh about using my money for your vacation fund. His face went pale, absolutely white. I heard you tell her to tell me to stay in Minneapolis where I belong. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. Mom, you're overreacting. Everyone vents about their parents. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. My voice was shaking now. Kyle, I have worked 2 jobs for 26 years to give you everything you needed. I paid for your education. I went into debt so you could go to Northwestern. I sent you $1,000 every single month, even when it meant I couldn't afford to fix my roof or save for retirement, and you used it for vacation money while telling people I was desperate. We don't use you for money, he protested. We appreciate it. Appreciate? I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You told Stephanie you don't even need it. You said it's just convenient. He didn't have an answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, I said, and my voice was steady now, cold. The automatic transfer is canceled, permanently. I'm done sending you money. Mom, you can't do this. I can and I have. If you want a relationship with me, it will be because you actually want me in your life, not because I'm sending you checks. What about Emma? His voice got louder. She's your granddaughter. I love Emma, but I won't be used to fund your lifestyle while you treat me with disrespect. This is about Stephanie, isn't it? You never liked her. This is about you, Kyle. I poked him in the chest. You're a grown man. You made the choice to let your wife turn you against your own mother. You made the choice to take my money while mocking me behind my back. That's on you. Not her. You. He stared at me. Fine, if that's how you want it. That's how it is, I said. When you're ready to apologize sincerely, when you're ready to treat me like your mother instead of your bank account, you know where to find me. Until then, I think it's best if we have some space. Kyle's jaw tightened. He turned and walked to the door, pulled it open, stopped. For a second, I thought he might turn around, might say he was sorry, might try to fix this, but he didn't. He walked out and closed the door behind him. I heard his car start, heard him drive away. I sat back down on the couch. My whole body was shaking. But I wasn't crying. I felt strong, stronger than I had in years. For the first time since Kyle was 6 years old, I had stood up for myself. I had set a boundary. I had demanded to be treated with respect, and it felt terrifying and liberating all at once. January passed, then February. Kyle didn't call. I didn't call him. I kept working at the hospital. But for the first time in years, I had extra money at the end of every month. That $1,000 stayed in my account. I looked at my bank balance and felt something unfamiliar. Security. I started doing things for myself. Small things at first. I bought new towels, nice ones, soft and thick. I got my hair done at a real salon instead of the cheap place I'd been going to. I bought myself a winter coat that actually fit well instead of making do with the one I'd had for 10 years. Carol convinced me to take a painting class at the community center. I'd never painted in my life. Turned out I was terrible at it, but I didn't care. It was fun. The instructor was kind. The other students were friendly. We'd paint for 2 hours every Tuesday evening and then go out for coffee after. In February, Carol and I took a long weekend trip to Arizona. We stayed in a modest hotel and hiked in the desert and ate at local restaurants. I spent money on the trip without feeling guilty, without thinking, I should be saving this for Kyle. It was the first vacation I'd taken in over a decade. The friends I made in painting class didn't know about Kyle. To them, I was just Diane, the woman who laughed too loud at bad jokes and always brought cookies to class. They didn't know I was a mother estranged from her son. I liked that. It felt freeing. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about Kyle. I did. Every day. I wondered how Emma was doing, if she'd grown, what new words she was learning. I wondered if Kyle ever thought about me, if he missed me, if he regretted what had happened. Late at night, sometimes I'd look at old photos on my phone. Kyle as a baby, Kyle starting kindergarten, Kyle at his high school graduation, that wedding photo of us together, both smiling. Had I failed him somehow? Had I loved him too much? Not enough. Should I have been stricter? More distant, but then I'd remember that voicemail. Don't be selfish. And I'd remember that I had done nothing wrong except demand to be treated like a human being. In late March, I got an email from Kyle. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. Mom, I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. Stephanie and I have been talking. I realize I didn't handle things well at Christmas. You didn't deserve to be treated that way. Can we talk? I'd like to see you. It wasn't a real apology. He said he didn't handle things well, not I was cruel and wrong, but it was something, more than I'd gotten before. I thought about it for 3 days. Carol said, don't rush back, make him work for it. Barbara said, he's your son, give him a chance. I decided to respond. We can talk. Come to Minneapolis. Come alone. He arrived the following Saturday. I made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped him with homework all those years ago. He looked older somehow. Tired. Mom, I'm sorry, he said. And this time, he looked me in the eye. I'm really sorry. What I did at Christmas was awful. What I said about you was awful. You've always been there for me, and I took you for granted. I let Stephanie influence me too much. I got caught up in our life in Chicago and forgot what matters. I listened, didn't interrupt. I miss you, he continued. Emma asks about you. She looks at pictures and says, Gamma. I want to fix this. I want you in our lives, not because of money, because you're my mom. Tears were running down his face now. Real tears. I can't promise everything will be perfect, he said. But I want to try, if you'll let me. I reached across the table and took his hand. I want that too. But things need to be different, Kyle. I'm not sending money anymore. That's done. And you need to set boundaries with Stephanie. I'm your mother. She doesn't get to decide if I'm part of your life. I know, he said. I've already talked to her about it. She apologized too. She wants to make things right. I wasn't sure I believed that, but I nodded. Okay, we'll take this slow. Rebuild trust. Okay, he agreed. We talked for 2 more hours, about everything, about Emma and his job and my painting class and the trip to Arizona. It wasn't like it used to be. There was still hurt between us, but it was a start. It's been 6 months since that conversation. Kyle and I talk on the phone every week. Real conversations, not just quick check-ins. He sends me videos of Emma. I've driven to Chicago twice, and both times I was welcomed. Stephanie is polite, sometimes even warm. I don't know if she's changed or if she's just being careful. I choose to give her the benefit of the doubt. Kyle hasn't asked me to reinstate the money transfer. Not once. They seem to be doing fine without it. Turns out they never really needed it at all. I'm still painting. Still terrible at it, but I love it anyway. I'm planning another trip with Carol this time to the Pacific Northwest. I've started saving for retirement again. The roof still leaks, but I've hired someone to fix it, using money that used to go to Kyle. I've learned something important through all of this. Love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. Being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is teach someone that you have worth. I don't know if Kyle and I will ever have the relationship we once did. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we needed to break so we could rebuild something stronger, healthier, more honest. What I do know is this. I will never again let anyone, not even my son, treat me like I don't matter. I will never again give pieces of myself away until there's nothing left. I spent too many years doing that. Now I'm learning to love myself the way I always loved Kyle. Unconditionally, fiercely, without reservation. And that lesson, as painful as it was to learn, has set me free. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did you handle it? Leave a comment below and let me know. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself and finding strength in difficult times. Share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that you are worth more than what you can give to others. You deserve respect, love, and dignity. Never forget that.